Welcome back to Dragons and Spaceships. Today's book sits at the intersection of love story and supernatural mystery, a novel that asks big, unsettling questions about life, death, and whether love can cross the boundaries we assumed are fixed. We are talking about Remain, a one-of-a-kind collaboration that blends the emotional depth of a sweeping romance with the eerie tension of a paranormal thriller, written by Nicholas Sparks and M. Night Shyamalan. This is a story about grief, yes, but it's also a story about belief, about what we accept as truth, and about what happens when love challenges the rules we live by. But first, let's talk about a quick trending book spotlight before we get into today's main read. If you have been scrolling Goodreads or romance feeds lately, one book that still keeps popping up is The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. This contemporary sports romance has become a fan favorite in the slow burn genre. The story follows Vanessa, who quits her job as a personal assistant to NFL star Aiden, the Wall of Winnipeg Graves, only for him to show up on her doorstep months later with an offer she can't refuse. What makes it stand out is how much readers love the pacing and character growth. The romance builds so gradually that once it finally clicks, the payoff feels deeply earned. Aiden's icy exterior and Vanessa's steady independence keeps fans grinning, swooning, and shouting Team Graves nearly a decade after the book's release. If you want a slow burn that rewards patience and has readers rereading sections just to savor the moment and it all finally falls into place, this one's definitely worth a look, especially in Super Bowl season. All right, let's set the stage a little. Remain follows Tate Donovan, a New York architect who arrives in Cape Cod hoping for a fresh start. Tate has just been discharged from a psychiatric facility where he was treated for acute depression following the devastating loss of his sister Sylvia. Before her death, Sylvia revealed something that still haunts him. A family secret she claimed was real. She said she could see spirits. Not ghosts in stories, but souls tethered to the living world, unable to move on. And she insisted this ability runs in their family. Tate doesn't believe it. He is logical, controlled, rooted in reason and structure. But when he takes up residence in a historic bed and breakfast while working on his friend's summer home, that certainly begins to fracture. Because there he meets Wren. And from the moment they connect, it's clear that this is not an ordinary romance. Tate Donovan is a man desperate for stability. Architecture makes sense to him. Rules, structure, measurable outcomes. It's how he's survived loss. But grief has left cracks in that foundation. Wren challenges him immediately. She's magnetic, intuitive, emotionally open in ways that unsettle him. Their connection is instant and unlike anything either of them has ever experienced before. But as their relationship deepens, Tate begins to sense that Wren's life isn't quite as it appears. Beneath the charm of her small-town existence lie jealousy, resentment, greed, and a growing danger that threatens to pull them apart. What makes this dynamic so compelling is that Tate's internal struggle mirrors the external mystery. To save Wren and to understand what's happening, he must confront the very thing he has spent his life rejecting. The possibility that love and truth don't always follow rational laws. At its heart, Remain is a novel about transcendent love. Not love as comfort, but love as disruption. The story explores what happens when emotion collides with logic, when belief threatens the safety of certainty. It also asks a deeply human question. If the people we love never truly leave us, what does that mean for how we live? Sylvia's claim that some spirits remain tethered reframes grief not as absence, but as a presence that refuses to fade. The book challenges the idea of moving on is the only healthy outcome. Instead, it suggests that love can persist beyond physical boundaries and that confronting that truth can be both terrifying and freeing. What makes Remain unique is the blend of genres. The emotional beats feel intimate and reflective, rooted in love, loss, and longing. At the same time, there's a growing sense of urgency, a ticking clock, unanswered questions, a truth that must be uncovered before time runs out. The writing leans into atmosphere, the isolation of Cape Cod, the history of the bed and breakfast, the tension simmering beneath a small-town politeness. This is a novel that feels cinematic by design, and it's not surprised it's headed for the screen. Remain left me thinking about how much of our lives are shaped by the stories we tell ourselves. What we believe is possible, what we dismiss because it scares us, and what we risk when we open ourselves to love again after loss. This book doesn't ask whether love can change us, it asks whether love can outlast us. If you've read Remain, I'd love to know. Do you think belief is a choice or something that finds us whether we are ready or not? And where do you draw the line between reason and faith when love is on the line? All right, Book Dragons, for this episode's Dragon's Roar, let's talk about a just-released cozy witchy read that's been charming readers lately. Books and Bewitchment by Isla Jewell. This magical romantic comedy dropped on February 3rd, 2026, and fans are already falling hard for its small-town vibes, enchanting settings, and quirky casts of characters. The story follows Rhea Wolf, who inherits an old video store in the mountain town of Arcadia Falls, only to discover that not only is there magic in her family's past, but she might have a destiny she never knew she had. On top of that, there's a slow burn, slightly forbidden romance simmering with the town handyman and a whole lot of charm in every whimsical corner. Readers are calling this a cozy, Gilmore Girls-esque witch rom-com, full of heart, found family, and just enough enchantment to make it feel like a warm hug on a winter night. If you are craving a fresh fantasy romance with small-town magic, swoony love, and a heroine stepping into her power, Books and Bewitchment is one to put on your radar. Remain is a story about grief, but it's also about hope, about the possibility that love doesn't end when life does, and that sometimes the most frightening thing isn't what we don't know, but what we might discover if we let ourselves believe. Thank you for spending this time with me on Dragons and Spaceships. If this episode resonated with you, consider sharing it with someone who loves stories where romance meets mystery, and where the question isn't whether love changes us, but whether it can set us free from the boundaries we thought were permanent. Until next time, keep reading, keep exploring, and may your TBR pile never stop growing.